Welcome to the Steve Long Show. I am your host, Steve Long, and this is the longest hour with Steve Long. Actually, this won't be an hour, but anyways, let's get into what I'd like to talk about today. So there was a teacher, an English teacher at a high school in Texas. It was the Willis High School down there in Willis, Texas. And this English teacher, his name was Anthony Lane. He was essentially going on a rant on Facebook, and this all had to do with the trannies who read to children in libraries. What are they called? They do a show, Drag Queens. That's it. There's the Drag Queen Hour. Where they come read to children. This is a high school, though. That's what kind of confused me. But anyways, so this guy went on a rant and was saying parents should not have the last say. Okay? Parents should not have the last say when it comes to, what we are going to teach your kids. And that if you don't like it, put your kids in private school. So here's what I have to say first. Send your kids to private school, no matter what. Don't be sitting there waiting for something like this. Secondly, this guy, not only should he be fired, but he should just never teach again. They are trying to indoctrinate your kids. And they have been indoctrinating your kids for quite some time. The left has gone out of its mind in this country, and they're not going to stop at anything to turn your children into wards of the state, and they are going to brainwash them. We are in for the fights of our lives, people, and we need to band together, and we need to take our schools back, and we need to get rid of scumbags like Anthony Lane. They have no place anywhere within 500 feet of a school. He should be treated like a pedophile. And I mean that seriously. When a scumbag says that parents should not have the last say, this person is grossly out of touch with reality. I will teach my kids. He even said in his rant that, if you want your kids to have values, send them to private school. And he said that your beliefs are archaic. We will not be teaching your kids these archaic beliefs. It's disgusting. It's the most egregious thing I've ever seen. And people in this town, they need to set this man straight. How he is allowed to keep his job is beyond me. I don't know. I didn't look further into it. Hopefully he got fired. But it is case in point of many stories I've seen much like this. Aside from the drag queen story, they're teaching your kids in public schools that the Bill of Rights, or not the Bill of Rights, the Declaration of Independence is based in white supremacy. The fact that a document written by white men declaring their freedom from another white man is white supremacy. Did you get a load of that? This garbage bullshit. So, I have to say to everybody, it's just ridiculous how crazy this country is getting, and we really need to do something about it before it's too late. And it might already be too late. Everyone thinks that, President Trump is here to save everything. One man cannot do all of it alone, even if he is the president. I have to say, it comes from you, the people, first. You have to stand up. You have to go to these PTA meetings and say, I will not allow this to be taught in my school. Even if you don't have kids, you have a stake in this, because these are the people who are going to be taking over society at one point. Do we want all of society be full of nutbags. You know, it's one thing that they want to give everyone a participation trophy. That's one thing, okay? But you take it to a whole nother level when you want to teach kids, that if they feel like being a girl, a boy feels like being a girl, well, then he is a girl. I don't know about you, but it's a little ironic how people who act as they are, the people who really look to science and logic are completely ridiculous. They want to hate on, the religious people who believe that the earth was created 6,000 years ago, yet they want to tell children that if they feel like being a girl, well, it should be a girl. They want to have a child decide for himself at the age of 6 or even younger to change themselves, to start getting, hormone blockers at a very young age, which is going to ruin their lives. And enough is enough. These people have infested our society. They are communists and they are socialists. They are Marxists. And we have to do something about it. And sitting around is not good anymore. You have to go and you have to tell 10 people, you have to convince 10 people to turn off football for 10 minutes and do something about this. We have way too many people sitting on the sidelines in this country who don't participate in any of what we're talking about. They don't even know what's going on. They don't ask their kids what their kids are learning in school. And if they did, they'd nearly have a heart attack if they woke up one day and saw where this country was headed. If they actually woke up and smelled the coffee for 2 seconds and realized we are on the verge of a communist takeover in this country. And if anyone thinks I am alarmist by saying so, you don't know what's going on. And I encourage you to start looking further into what I am talking about. I really, the first thing that I always want to tell people is, if you want to really see what it's about, what I'm talking about, go to the Communist Party USA website, and I want you to make a comparison to you pick it, any Democrat candidate running for Congress right now, and compare their platform to the Communist Party USA's platform and what they say, some of the rhetoric in the Communist Party USA website's, literature. And I want you to say, is there a difference between what these communists are saying and between what Democrats are running on? I can tell you right now, there's not much of a difference, but don't believe me. Go and see for yourself. Go and see for yourself. You owe it to me, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your children, and you owe it to your country. But you need to understand that, we can't survive much longer if we don't start, vehemently opposing the onslaught of ludicrousy that is coming our way on a daily basis here. And we really, really need to start praying to the Almighty, because I'll be honest, I don't know if we're going to get through this. I'll be honest, 4 years ago, I legitimately was making plans to leave this country. And when President Trump got elected, I could read the writing on the wall about 4 years ago on where this was headed. And when President Trump got elected, I thought, well, they got the House, they got the Senate, and they got the President. Maybe things can turn around. And I have to say, I don't think they can turn around. One man is not enough. When you have a House that's useless and you get nothing done in the first 2 years, you have a Senate that's useless, we have to start really thinking about things. The people we elect are completely useless. They do nothing for us. They only look out for themselves and whoever donated to their campaign bigly. So I think now's the time we have to start doing everything possible. Call your local rep. Call your senator. Start demanding action. Start demanding they do something. Pass some sort of legislation. Even if you got a Democrat, tell them, this is ridiculous. What's going on in Congress right now is they're subverting the will, and they always have been, but it's so blatant and in your face that they are subverting the will of the American people, and it needs to end. And we need to do something about it. We need to go after these people on a daily basis, calling them, leaving them messages, letting them know that we are pissed off and we will not take it anymore. It's ridiculous to think about how certain things can be taught in schools, public schools. I've come across stories where people were being indoctrinated by their teachers, or children were being indoctrinated by their teachers about how Thanksgiving is so bad with propaganda videos. I've seen the videos that were shown in classrooms, and they were pure propaganda, poorly made, poorly produced, by someone who seemed like they were borderline special needs. And I don't say that in any disparaging way towards special needs people. I say the person who made the videos seemed as if they had a learning disability because they couldn't even read themselves. So this is what is taking over our nation. Our children are so indoctrinated it's not even funny. The people who are in college now have been indoctrinated their whole lives. And this new batch of children who are in school now are going to be indoctrinated on a level that we can't even imagine. This country is done. It's toast. It's toast. And I don't know what you do. How do you survive a communist regime? Because that is what is coming, folks. Start preparing now, because there will be a communist takeover of this country. Say goodbye to your Bill of Rights. Say goodbye to your, Second Amendment, your First Amendment. It's gone. Maybe you want to keep your head down and hide out, but this is what is coming down on us. It feels as if time is too late. It's too late. So spring into action and see if we can try and do something, because having President Trump is not enough. You have to do something. It is on you. If you do not want to end up in a gulag one day, and I say this with all seriousness, you need to start doing something, no matter how small, no matter how large. You have to do something to secure your freedom, to secure your children's freedoms, your grandchildren's freedoms, to ensure the survival of the United States of America, one republic, or it's all over. It's all over. So, you got to really ask yourself, do I want to live in a country? You might be older. You might say, well, I'm going to clock out soon in 10 years or so. What about everyone else left here? What about the dream our forefathers had? A free and prosperous nation. We will no longer be free. We will no longer be prosperous. And everything starts with the education of the young ones. And if you are, spoiling, our apples, you're making them bad apples, I'll tell you what, it's going to get real nasty real quick. The way that people children are, well, not children, well, they act like children, but young adults, the way they act on college campuses is simply unacceptable. And I don't look forward to these people entering the workforce. I can't imagine what employers will be going through hiring, people like that. I can imagine them crying about every little thing. It's sad to say this, but I think, if a world war happened tomorrow, it might do us some good. Because maybe we could send all of these degenerates off to war, and it could be a kick in the ass for them. But I mean, war is no good, and quite frankly, I want non-interventionist policies. But something major has to happen for everyone to get their heads out of their asses, because we are at a very scary crossroads. We're at the beginning of the end of capitalism in the United States. We're at the beginning of the end of freedoms as we know it. I mean, the First Amendment is under assault big time. These communists are coming after the First Amendment. Political correctness is ruling the day. We see some comedians fighting back, but if they lose that fight, they're kind of like that last levee. They're holding back that flood water. Dave Chappelle, Bill Burr, and you got to think, what's going to happen when someone like you is living in a tyrannical dictatorship? And folks, you might be listening to me thinking that I'm crazy, that what I'm saying is way out of line, that there's no way it could ever get this far. But let me tell you something. We have people pouring over this border. We've had millions pour over this border, tens of millions. A significant chunk of Mexico's population all immigrated into our country. Now they're not just coming from Mexico, they're coming from Nicaragua, Guatemala. They're coming from all over, and it's amazing how people are accepting of it and act as if it is not an issue, like it will have no effect. Someone was reading out an argument they heard on Facebook to me today, in which one person was saying something about how bad Donald Trump was because he's separating families, and this person who had a rebuttal to that was essentially saying that, talking about child trafficking and whatnot, but it's just, and they were the minority voice, the lone voice, and everyone was saying about how bad Donald Trump is separating families, how mean he is, how immigrants just come here, but let's back it up there. They are illegal immigrants. There's a difference between immigrants and legal immigrants, and we always need to make that distinction. But they say that they all, by and large, which this is true, by and large, most of them come here in search of a better life. And I would like to see people have a better life, but the notion that has no effect on our people, on our economy, is ludicrous. And usually it's people who have a very shallow understanding of the situation who pose an argument like that. In fact, the person who was making the argument is someone who would be most affected by it. What demographic is affected most by illegal immigration? Unskilled labor. People without high school diplomas. Because they have to compete with people who are willing to work for less. This used to be an issue that Democrats used to have a big problem with. Unions had a huge problem with this. I don't know what happened. Obviously, Democrats are not looking out for the best interests of union workers, and obviously, President Trump has tapped into that sentiment. And this is why he's in office, because the Democrats are not looking out for people's best interests, who they have always claimed they were looking out for their best interests. And hopefully more people who are supposedly being represented by the Democrat Party, but in reality are not, hopefully they get fed up and say no thanks to them as well. But the Republican Party has been extremely weak in supporting our president. They have been all talk, no action. So I hate to be all doom and gloom, but what I have been seeing is not enough. The president, all he can do is executive order after executive order, and he's not passing any legislation. Nothing's going to stick around if he leaves office. It's all over if he's gone. And even if he gets in, these leftists are turning certain states into hellholes, absolute hellholes. Look at California. It's falling apart on so many different levels. With the amount of homeless people they have flooding LA, the amount of homeless people they have spewing feces all over San Francisco streets, the amount of homeless people leaving needles all over streets throughout California is epic. The amount of people leaving states like California, New York, and Illinois, we are seeing exoduses of biblical proportions. Some years you got about 100,000 people leaving a state, a net loss of 100,000 people. People need to realize that the reason the Democrat states, these Democrat-controlled areas, are falling apart is because progressive ideas are terrible. And if they weren't, you know what? We would see stable. We would see stability in these local governments. People used to say that, I can recall a while back, wildfires before, and President Trump had said it was due to poor forest management. And everyone scoffed and laughed and acted as if the president was ridiculous. But no, that really is the case. Because of these insane environmental regulations they put forth about clearing brush, these are part of the reason why these wildfires are starting, along with PG&E not taking care of their power lines, and this is causing fires. And then they're having planned blackouts in California. I mean, who wants to live in California at this point? It is just, I mean, yeah, great weather, but everything's on fire. You have mudslides, sinkholes, earthquakes, the highest taxes possible. They label people in the NRA terrorists. They have who knows how many homeless people throughout their state. So, I mean, if we want a glimpse of the future, it's going to look something like California. It's essentially a failed state. It's not quite a third world country yet, but it's getting there, buddy. It will be there before you know it. I'm sure some parts of it resemble a third world country. So if you want to be living in something like California, where PC rules the day and they'll have transvestites reading to your children, just keep allowing this to happen. Because Democrats in power, Democrats who are in office, that's only one part of this. There's only one part. You have to think about Hollywood. You have to think about all these other factors that make up the puzzle. It's not just the politicians. It's the schools. It's Hollywood. It's music. We are in a spiritual war, and being in a spiritual war means you must pray. You must get down on your knees and pray to God. And if enough of us pray to God and stand up and fight, we might be able to take this country back. But if all of us continue on the path that we are on, America will become hell on earth. Mark my words. Thank you for joining the Steve Long Show. If you could like, share, and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. God bless and have a wonderful day.